Yes, sliding. Good evening, one and all. We now request you to proceed for high tea, and we'll gather after some time. High tea is that way. Thank you.
హలో, మరొకసారి హై టీ రెడీగా ఉంది. మీరు అందరూ హై టీ తీసుకోవాల్సిందిగా కోరుచున్నాము. దయవంచి ఒక హాఫ్ అన్ అవర్ టైం దానికి ప్లీజ్. అందరికీ హై టీ ఉందండి, తీసుకోండి. జర్నలిస్ట్ మిత్రులకు కూడా హై టీ ఉన్నది, తీసుకోండి. కొద్దిసేపట్లో ప్రోగ్రామ్ స్టార్ట్ అవుతుంది, అందరూ వచ్చి సీట్లు కూర్చోవలసిందిగా కోరుతున్నాం. పరమేష్ గారు, ఈ లెఫ్ట్ సైడ్ మొత్తం ఓన్లీ ప్రెస్కి కేటాయించడం జరిగింది, దయవుంచి కోఆపరేట్ చేస్తారని కోరుకుంటున్నాం. ఓన్లీ ప్రెస్. హైటీ అయిపోతే వచ్చి కూర్చోవలసిందిగా కోరుచున్నాం. కొద్ది నిమిషాల్లో ప్రోగ్రామ్ స్టార్ట్ అవుతుంది.
I now invite Akhila and Mohan to present book and bouquet to Jayaprakash Narayan garu. I invite Veda Samhita to present book and bouquet to Lakshman garu. I invite Captain Lokesh and Smita garu to present bouquet and book to Ramchandra garu. I invite our guests to join us for lighting the lamp.
शरीराय गुणमण्डिताय गुणेशानाय धीमहि गुणातीताय गुणाधीशाय गुणप्रविष्टाय धीमहि सुफलां मलयज शीतलां सशकितयशोभिनीं सुहासिनीं सुमधुरभाषिणीं सुखदां वरदां मातरं वन्दे मातरं वन्दे मातरं. जय हिंद.
I now request the founder of Forum for Nationalist Thinkers, Sri N. Ramchandra Rao garu, to lead over the program.
Today's chief guest, Honorable Union Minister of External Affairs, Government of India, guest of honor, Sri Jayaprakash Narayan garu, former IAS officer and founder of Lok Satta, and a crusader for the electoral reforms, and my friend and known to everyone here, Member of Parliament, Rajya Sabha, Dr. K. Lakshman garu. Soon our Union Minister for Tourism, Sri Kishan Reddy, will be joining us. Guests present here, members of the media and dear friends. Let me first apologize for the slight delay in this program because we all know that today is Hanuman Jayanti and roads are blocked in the city, and for that reason today a slight delay in this program is there. Secondly, I would also like to apologize to those guests who are standing for not able to provide them seat because the hall is jam-packed, overpacked, with the overwhelming response to this meeting, and I thank everyone for giving the response. Friends, Forum for Nationalist Thinkers was formed when some pseudo-intellectuals in the country were returning the awards inspired by the urban naxals and other anti-India forces. And then the Forum for Nationalist Thinkers was formed, and we took up several programs inculcating the spirit of nationalism among the youth, among the citizens. And this is the second program for which Dr. Jaishankarji has attended. Earlier, a program organized by Forum for Nationalist Thinkers at Hotel Marriott 1 year back on G20. And then he was our chief guest. At that time also we had a overwhelming response for the meeting, and he gave us a wonderful account of what is G20 and how G20 has made India an influential player in the world, in the global politics. Friends, I do not take much time because we have very little time for us, but still presiding over this meeting, we have selected this topic, the topic that India's foreign policy, that is the way, and from diffidence to the confidence. This topic we have selected because before 2014, when Sri Narendra Modi ji came to power, India was not treated as a developed nation, or India was not getting its due respect in the global politics or the global arena. And there were some neighbors of us who were getting the most favored nation status with many countries like America and other countries. But after Narendra Modi came, the decolonization is being taken place. Firstly, the foreign policy which we have seen several times that wherever the crisis in the world takes place, Indians are safely brought to India, and that is one of the greatest victory of India's diplomacy. Today, Pakistan has been isolated in the world. That is where we have again succeeded. Today, we are able to tell the world that we are no more a developing nation, we are no more a begging nation, we are no more a country of the snake charmers, but we are as developed as any other country, and today we have our own place in this world. And that is because of the people like Dr. Jaishankar ji who have influenced our foreign policy, and we are proud of our leaders who are in such places and making India proud and making every Indian proud. I remember that earlier in those days, when people used to go abroad, we used to call them brain drain. But now, brain drain is not brain drain, but it's a matter of pride for the country that today in the world, people demand Indians. They want Indian technocrats, they want Indian doctors, they want Indian engineers. They have such faith in India. And lastly, I would like to say that how decolonization, how the mindset of the world has changed on India. Earlier, when ambassadors and visitors used to come to country, our leaders used to present them with Taj Mahal. But Taj Mahal is a mausoleum. It is a graveyard, basically, of a person. But after Narendra Modi came, our government, today we are giving them Bhagavad Gita, and that is a change of mind in the country. So therefore, friends, our guests are there who are going to give us many more information on that. The program, we have a very short program. First, Lakshmanji will just introduce a few lines, and then our guest of honor will speak, and then our chief guest will speak. There will be only 5 or 6 Q&A, and then we will conclude the program. And once again, I apologize for the inconvenience caused to the guests. Thank you very much.
Then, religious discourse of that kind in politics is actually modernizing our society, modernizing our economy. I am an agnostic. I do not know if there is a God. I have a bit like India's form of foreign policy of mutual non-interference. Of course, it still is a policy, but the non-interference. Now, I think in dealing with God, as long as God doesn't bother about me, I don't bother about God, and there will be mutual non-interference. But if religion is modernizing society, giving women rights of equality, elevating every single human being in this society irrespective of birth, that religion I happily embrace. The West must know if indeed there is something called religion, because ours is not really religion, it's a way of life. If Charvaka is a part of Hindu pantheon of saints, Charvaka, who was avowedly a godless man, if every single thought in the world has been embraced, if Satyam Ekat and Vipra Bahuda Vadanti is our catchphrase, this is not really religion. But even if you think it's a religion, if that religion is modernizing our society, I don't see what is the problem. I think the West has missed that point. The Western media has missed that point. You're articulating it, but please say it as loudly as you can. Thank you once again, and thank you for sparing your time, for being here. And on behalf of citizens of Hyderabad and the state, we welcome you.
Thank you for your wonderful message to the audience here. In fact, before our chief guest speaks, I request all the guests to put your mobile phones in the silent mode. Sir, I am just provoked to narrate a small speech of Mr. Narendra Modi. He said in Bhopal once, because that came for discussion in our house when I was MLC with regard to the Muslim reservation. Then Narendra Modi ji said that इस देश में हिंदू और मुसलमान को लड़ना नहीं है, दोनों को मिलकर देश की गरीबी से लड़ना है. And that was his view. And I still remember, that's what you said. Thank you for reminding me and making, we are more than religious, we are nationalists. Believe we respect all religions. Thank you, sir. And now I request our chief guest today, Dr. Jaishankar Garu, proud of every Indian here, and our foreign minister to kindly address us. Thank you.
My ministerial colleague, Sri Krishan Reddy Garu, my parliament colleague, Dr. Lakshman Garu, our guest of honor, Sri Jayaprakash Narayan Garu, Sri Ramachandra Garu, dear friends. I'm really very, very pleased to be here today and to have once again an opportunity to share some thoughts with you. Before I speak about the topic, which is how foreign policy, the India way, has moved from diffidence to confidence, I want to remind you all, which you know already, that today is Hanuman Jayanti. And I say this because I regard Lord Hanuman as the greatest diplomat of all time. So, for me, each one of us visualizes him. I mean, for all of us, he is the ultimate Ram Bhakt, but certainly for those in my line of work, he has a very special meaning. I was tempted to make some comments on what you said, but it will take me away from the main thrust, but I'll come back to it. So let me come really to the topic, from diffidence to confidence. So how does that play out? I think if one looked at the diffident era, it was largely a period where the focus was on non-alignment. Whereas as we move to the more confident era, we have put forward the concept of Vishwa Bandhu, that we have the ability, the confidence to engage as many countries in the world, ideally all of them, but in real life there are one or two, with whom there are always some problems. So what is the difference? You can say, what is the difference between non-aligned and Vishwa Bandhu? I think one is actually an active sense of engagement that it obviously is strongest with the big powers, with the countries closest to India, with the neighborhood beyond ASEAN, Gulf, Indian Ocean, Central Asia. But it goes all the way. And during COVID we showed that even islands which were in the Pacific, islands which were in the Caribbean, countries where we don't even have embassies, but we still, at a moment of global difficulty, remembered all of them. The second difference from diffidence to confidence is today, if you ask me what is the single a decision, for me it begins with national interest and it ends with national interest. That it can be a very difficult situation. Sometimes it can put you, as Jayaprakash Narayan ji pointed out, it sometimes can put you into a argumentative position with other countries. But for me, if I were to say, finally, if I have to make a decision, what is the basis? I think today our country is very clear about it. The welfare of our people, the interest of our society comes first. The security of our country comes first and foremost. And we are tested. We will be tested. He gave the example of buying oil from Russia after the Ukraine conflict. But that's not the only test. After 2017, when we restarted a group called Quad, again we came under a lot of pressure from a very different source. And we stood our ground. We stood our ground unlike what we had done before. Another difference I would say is, while national interest does for me be the fundamental core criteria of foreign policy, there is, I would say, ethical, moral, human dimension to what we do. And we speak about inclusive India. We speak about leaving no one behind. I think it applies in the world also. That there are sometimes countries which are like us, they went through a colonial period. Maybe they did not recover, rebuild as quickly as we did. Sometimes these are small countries who don't have the capability of dealing with a crisis like COVID, maybe like the manner in which we did. So we have a moral obligation to these countries, and I think just like we should never forget the last person in our own country, we should also not forget the last person in the world, which is why we push today. Today, when we say this era of confidence, we are a voice of the global south. The global south, which is about 125 countries in the world, these countries trust India to take up their cause, their positions in the world. Now, there are other examples I can give you of confidence. One is, frankly, how to defend your borders more strongly, because we have challenges on our border, and the key to defending our borders is not to just posture in public. It requires a lot of homework. It requires building the infrastructure. It requires supporting the military. It requires creating systems which will respond whenever the border is under threat. An equally strong example I can give you is of countering terrorism. I will come to that in more detail. But the fact is, the defensive era, we accepted terrorism. Defensive era, we were angry, but we said finally, after Mumbai, the National Security Advisor of the previous UPA government wrote, we sat, we debated, we considered all the options. Then we decided to do nothing. Okay. We decided to do nothing, and his justification was, we felt the cost of attacking Pakistan was more than the cost of not attacking Pakistan. Okay. So, I leave you to judge. But there is still another aspect, and that is how to use foreign policy for national development. I think increasingly, because I'm very much in agreement with what Jayaprakash Narayan Garu said, which is ultimately for us, we will be as strong in the world as we are strong at home. And for that, actually, foreign policy must be a vehicle. Must be a vehicle to get capital, to get resources, to get technology, to get best practices, to get us most opportunities in the world. That to me is a good foreign policy. So when we speak about moving from an era of diffidence to an era of confidence, these are some of the aspects which I want to put before you. Now, you are listening to me and you are asking yourself, but this is very obvious. We must have always done this. Sadly, I have to tell you, no. Okay. Now, I'm not saying this because I am trying to make my talk interesting. I actually want you to reflect on our own record of previous years. And why is it that in the past, when very difficult tests came, why is it that we didn't see it coming, we didn't prepare for it, When it came, we didn't respond to it strongly. I think this is a question, because this question even today matters, because as we heard about this whole issue of redistribution, and really this is a kind of controlled Raj which we are trying to revive. Some people are trying to revive. The past has not gone away. The past is there. It is in the form of one particular political party particularly, but it is there and we must be aware of it. So let us look what was our record. Okay. So when we look at foreign policy, I think it's no secret, probably today, but I would argue not just today, for many, many years, our biggest challenge has been China. It has been China. We, at times, pretended it was not. We looked away, we rationalized it, we justified it, but the reality was, actually from the very start, it's been actually the biggest challenge for us. Now, I want some of you to appreciate. This is not something which we are realizing now. In 1950, in 1947, we became independent. 1949, there was a revolution in China. Communist Party came to power, and the Chinese PLA moved into Tibet. Okay. In 1950, one of the last things which Sardar Patel did was he wrote a letter to Nehru. Sardar Patel told Nehru, saying, I'm seeing all this analysis about China, how we are both Asian countries, we are going to be great friends. I am very worried. I actually think that today, for the first time in India's history, we are facing a two-front threat. And that we keep saying things to them that we are friends. I'm not sure they think in the same way. So I am cautioning you. This is Sardar Patel actually about less than 2 months before he passed away. The reply from Nehru was, no, you are very suspicious. He doesn't say you don't understand foreign policy, but that's... And then he says, it is inconceivable. It is inconceivable that the Chinese would ever cross the Himalayas and attack us. 12 years later, what he said was inconceivable happened. Now, why do I say this to you? I'm not fault finding. I am trying to make us all understand. When we look at the world, here was Sardar Patel, a very, very practical man, very grounded, very much with a feel for what life is about. I'm in Hyderabad. There can be no better, if any place should know what Sardar Patel did, this place should know. Okay. Now, the same Sardar Patel, with his sense of wisdom, practicality, he's actually he's anticipating what is coming in the future. But the person to whom he's addressing it is actually clouded by a kind of leftist ideology, which he says, today we and China, we to have a common interest in going up against the West, and therefore he is refusing to see what is actually a very practical, I would say basics of diplomacy. In diplomacy, every country has to be careful about its neighbors. And when you have two neighbors with whom you have potential or actual problems, those two neighbors will also get together. That is also very practical. You don't need a PhD in diplomacy to understand this. But yet, that is what happened. Now, I fast forward you from 1950 to 1962. Now the Chinese have attacked. What is inconceivable has happened. They have come down in Arunachal Pradesh. This is when Nehru has said goodbye to Assam and Northeast. And then he writes a letter to President John Kennedy of America. That letter is a public letter. Any of you can Google it, you can find it in the record. in that letter, he asked for assistance. And it was the right thing to do. Then he says there, but I am hesitant how much to ask you, because I don't know how it will look in front of other people. Country is under attack. Okay, Chinese have come down Arunachal Pradesh. You are actually saying bye-bye Assam. And then you are saying, but I don't know how I will look in front of other people. Just think today. Because when I said if you put your country's interest first, that is the one and only criteria by which crucial judgment should be made. Would you have said, I am under attack, but I don't know how I will look to other people, so only give me half of what I really need? Does this, what does it say? Now, some years before this how do I look in front of other people actually came in another context. There was a big debate at that time about UN Security Council. Okay? Even today, it's still a live issue, all of you know that. At that time, some countries offered India a seat, because the seat at that time, China's seat, was occupied by Taiwan. So many countries felt they didn't want People's Republic of China to occupy that. So they offered the seat to India. Now, our response at that time was, yes, we have such an offer, but first China should get its seat. After that, we will see what we have to do. Now, in case you think I'm not saying the truth, the source of this is Jawaharlal Nehru. He has written a letter to the chief ministers of all states. It's in his letters to the chief minister. So today, just imagine, we are talking of India first policy. He is saying China first in the UN. India follows after that. So not putting, when we say an era of diffidence, an era of diffidence is not just an era of diffidence. It is an era actually where we don't have clarity about our own national interests. That we mix a certain ideological outlook, belief in what should be our contribution to the world, which is, I will also, we also do many good things for the world. But that cannot be at the cost of our national security. It cannot be at the cost of our national interest. For us, that is why India first, Bharat first, and Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam are two sides of the same coin, but we should never allow Bharat first to be compromised. Now, I've given you 3 examples on China. So let me switch to the other side. So now, our problem started right at the beginning. So the first year problem, and again, it's very interesting. This also goes back to Nehru and Patel. That if you see, Patel opposed our going to the United Nations on the Kashmir issue. And again, it's a very practical, he actually says, do not put yourself at the, at the judgment of other countries who have an interest in this matter. So, disregarding that, we went to the United Nations. And you all know what happened after that. So, when we today, as you know, today, there's a lot of interest about Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. But we should not forget, how did the problem originate in the first place? Why, at what point of time, why did the Indian Army not complete its recovery operations? Why did we put ourselves under international pressure? Because that international pressure, which we opened the door for ourselves, continued from 1947 all the way till Article 370 was dealt with. Please understand the importance of what we did with Article 370. We have remedied We have corrected an enormous mistake that we had made in 1947. And we created a lobby. We created a vote bank lobby. We created a Kashmiri lobby. There were people who were arbitraging that what was, you spoke about telling the Western press. I would show to everybody in the Western press one page of the Constitution. It says temporary provision. Do you know the word temporary in English language? It comes to an end. That is the meaning of the word temporary. But, there's nobody so blind as those who don't want to see. So, if you look at the 370 issue, here again, the earlier era, that somewhere, we must trust the world, we will go to other people, there are wiser people out there, we must subject our national interest to them. That is, now, Kashmir was one example. A second example actually, and again, it has taken this government, Narendra Modi's government in this tenure, to correct that mistake also. This is the Nehru-Liaquat Pact of 1950. Pakistan partition has happened. We can see the violence of the partition. How many people were killed during partition? And yet, we conclude an agreement with Pakistan that you will treat your minorities well and I will treat my minorities well, and this is an agreement between us. If he treated his minorities well, there would have been no partition in the first place. No, he went into partition with a mindset of not treating people of other faith well. Now, see the result of that. Look at the dramatic decrease in the minority numbers there. So we finally were left with this situation where you had minorities in our neighborhood, which is actually a post-partition problem, whose only logical place to go is India. Where else would they go? And yet, when we do something very natural, very logical, we are actually correcting a mistake which we had made 75 years ago. It is made out as though, what kind of mindset have you people brought to bear on this? I am giving people rights. I am not taking away anybody's rights. I have not denied citizenship to anybody. I am telling people who have no other place to go that at least please come here and I will try my best. I will fast track and do whatever I can to help you. So, this story can go on and on. I have given you a China version. I have given you a Pakistan example. Let me speak a little bit about that speech. We have alienated a country like the United States. At that time, the most powerful country in the world. Still is the most powerful country in the world. And we have alienated it not for our national interest. We have alienated it because we kept taking up China's cause with the United States. Okay. Now, this is not just Dr. Ambedkar. Even, Dr. Shama Prasad Mukherjee has similar views. At that time, Rajaji had such views. Sardar Patel again, he speaks about how, for us, a strong relationship with the United States is good for national development. When I said a good foreign policy is a foreign policy which actually propels growth, which gets us technology, which gets us resources. We have to understand that there were decisions and choices and positions which were made in the early years after independence, which actually created problems for us with the United States, which took many decades thereafter to sort out. So finally, on this I can go on. Okay, I've actually just written a book on this matter. If you want to read a longer account, please look at it. Just think of a country like Israel. Okay, people speak today saying, no, everybody is the same. We should not bring faith into any discussion. Israel became independent in 1948. From 1948 to 1992, we chose not to have an ambassador and an embassy in Israel. Why? Now, from 1992, we had an embassy. From 1992 till 2017, when Narendra Modi went to Israel, no Prime Minister of India ever visited Israel. Think about it. Think about it and then tell me that faith has no influence on our policy. What is this? Is this not vote bank? So, forget domestic politics. I'm telling you my field. I'm telling you my field where critical decisions were actually made. Keeping in mind, today, the issues which are coming up for debate are not new issues. They are actually an honest description of people's record over the last 75 years. A record which is not only in domestic politics, which is not only in politics, which is actually which is almost for them part of their mindset and part of their ideology. And when we speak about ideology, the point with Jayaprakash Narayanji made, that you would have thought after the years of socialism, license Raj, control Raj, the crisis of 1991-92, all the effort, the challenges we had in doing this reform, you would think after this you don't want to do it again. But again now they want to do it. So think today the role actually of this, how much Vichardhara actually shapes thinking. And when we speak about diffidence to confidence, the change is actually not just, somebody is strong, all that is there. It is actually a different mindset. It is even that is
some BrahMos missiles to Philippines. Shall we be exporting our BrahMos missiles to other countries as well, maybe including Taiwan also? Thank you, sir.
One more. No, because we have small time and then Ramesh, introduce yourself.
Sir, namaste sir. I am Dr. Ramesh Kanniganti, did my doctorate from Delhi JNU School of International Studies, American Studies, sir. Wonderful time to recall your father, the strategic Pitamaha of Indian strategic culture, sir. The question is, sir, there are so many points, I would agree with you, sir. Only one clarification from you for the audience sake and to myself also. In the geopolitics of artificial intelligence, where does India stand? Because we are talking from a nerve center called Hyderabad, the IT capital. That's one thing, sir. Called Hyderabad, the IT capital. That's one thing, sir. As you have mentioned, sir. So, I would like to request you to comment on the second point. In the Quad, India given the 7516 kilometers of coast